Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Shubha Paramahansa, Ludwika Church, Ashtoka, the Shishima's Divine Grace, Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Anandakoti Vaishnava ki jai. Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Ghosh Shri Chaitanya Govinda Shri Vaidya Gadadhara Shri Vatari Gaur Shri Harekrishna Gopinath Bhagwan Giri Govardhan Ram Nam ki jai. Bhakti Maya Govardhan Devan Pradhan ki jai. Keraswami ki jai. Gangami ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Moti Devi ki jai. Shri Badrinarayan Swami Kirtan jai. Namaste, Narasimhaya. Namaste, Narasimhaya.
Thank you all for coming to tonight's Krishna Fest. We're very much happy to have you. So tonight we have a special treat. His Holiness Badrinarayan Swami will be speaking about Krishna and enlightening us about the glories of the holy name. Thank you very much. You all turn our attention to this big seat over here. We'll get started momentarily.
that short cord or what? Then get your money angled in the car. There we go.
You can come closer. I don't bite. I'm vegetarian. And you will see that there's a direct ratio. The closer it comes to serving the nice Krishna Prasad, the nice feast, the fuller the crowd gets. So there'll be people who come. They're just tied. Yeah, there it is.
If you have a cell phone, anybody here have a cell phone? I think it's a high odds of it. You will find there's an off button on them. You can shut them off, and don't worry, all the news will still be there when you turn it back on. You won't miss much. So today, I wanted to pick the theme, and I thought, why not pick a field I'm unfamiliar with? So it's on humility. It'll be something worth my, perhaps I'll become enlightened as well, or learn more. And the full name of the theme is the power of humility. Now, we usually think humility quite often connotes low self-esteem and non-assertiveness, and that you more or less, people can drive their truck right over you. But we're talking about a spiritual humility, which also includes qualities of meekness and forgiveness and so many things. One of our great acharyas, one of the great teachers in our line, is Bhishmadev. And Bhishmadev in the Bhagavatam is one of the spiritual source books we use. And in the Bhagavatam, there's a narration of Bhishmadev just as he's leaving this world. And he's giving all types of practical instruction about how to live in this world. And it's not how to download data, or it's how to navigate in this world through spiritual vision. And he describes, of course we're jumping into the end, but we'll get back to it. He says there, how does one conquer anger? Anyone here ever experienced anger? Can I say? I was a little ticked off this afternoon. My car went stuck. So it's something we all experience. And certainly in interpersonal relationships. Even you go to the Himalayas and live in a cave, well, the guy in the cave next to you, maybe he snores. There's always something, something. We had a gentleman who used to come to our temple in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He was from Arkansas. He was a smart guy, actually. But he had a lot of sort of, I don't know what you call it, folkloric sayings. And one of the devotees said, he was struggling with something. He said, boys, it's not one thing, it's another. And this experienced gentleman from Arkansas said, son, you say it's one thing or another, I say both. So there's always something or another that's, in Italy they call that rock in your shoe. There's always something, So Bhishmadev, especially in dealing with people, things are a little easier. People are a real trip. So, how to overcome anger? And I think it's an Armenian saying, "May I dance on your ashes." So, I mean, that's, victory in anger that, And wasn't somebody said it's not enough to succeed, but you have to see your opponents fail? Then it's the full sandwich, that not only are you successful, but you can drive by in your brand new Mercedes and splash mud on them as they're on the corner selling apples or whatever's going on. But Bhishmadev says, the way to conquer anger is to learn to forgive. And Prabhupada, and forgiveness can be given, one gets the impetus to forgive. Because there has to be an impetus for the emotion. You can't just artificially do it. Like you say, bury the hatchet, and the saying is, nobody ever forgets where they buried the hatchet. So, it's right there under the surface. So to actually forgive, what is the impetus to do that? And the impetus, one of the impetuses to do that is humility. Now we're going to go back into humility in a minute, but one of the impetuses, I just didn't want to forget this, one of the impetuses of humility, of forgiveness, is humility. And a very good friend of mine, his name is Ravindra Sarup, he's one of the senior members of ISKCON, and a very saintly person, very nice devotee. And for many years, anyway, the short version is, Srila Prabhupada, the founder of the Harekrishna movement, was in Philadelphia. And somehow or other, it's a long story, we're going to take the short version, there was a professor who came, and the professor was had all kinds of philosophical mumbo-jumbo and misunderstandings and speculations, and he was used to prevailing. And when he met with Srila Prabhupada, actually, all of his arguments were defeated. Now, if your arguments are defeated, you can take it all. Let me grow from this. Let me learn something. Let me, this is new information. Oh, very good. Or one can become proud and arrogant and angry. This man took the latter route, became very angry. And he began shouting at Srila Prabhupada, even to the point of swearing. So, if you know our personalities at ISKCON, there's a devotee named Brahmananda, who's big size. I mean, he's a big guy. And Brahmananda finally went and said, "I think you have to go now, sir," when the guy was out the door. So the devotees were shocked. And they thought that this man is cursing and swearing at a saintly devotee of the Lord. What will be the reaction? If you trip an old lady or steal from the church box, there's reaction for these things. So imagine shouting and swearing. So there was a small group of devotees left in the room, maybe 4 or 5 devotees, and each of them offered their analysis of what was going to happen to this man. He was going to be born in Calcutta with no arms and legs, playing harmonica. Who knows what's going to happen to this guy? They have all their ideas. Each of them offered their formula. And when it came to Srila Prabhupada, he was the last. He went in a circle. Prabhupada was writing something in his desk. He looked up, and they said, "Srila Prabhupada, what do you think will happen to him?" And Prabhupada's immediate response, with no artifice, was, "Well, we could forgive him." Nobody had thought of that. They thought of, born in the Himalayas, wandering, born in Calcutta, whatever it may be, But Prabhupada thought, well, we could forgive him. The devotees were surprised. Prabhupada looked up and Prabhupada said, "I must have offended him in a previous life. He's come in this life to take his revenge." Prabhupada just brushed it off as inconsequential. And if there's no, so if we, I think we need the time factor. There's a verse, we're kind of bouncing around, that's all. There's a short sutra. So sutra is like a compact statement. Sutra being the Sanskrit word. There's a short sutra that I brought from the Bhagavatam, from the Bhagavad Purana, that I have always found solace in. And it goes, it's very short. Bhavagrahi Janardanam. Bhava means one's mood, one's inner feelings, one's, Bhavagrahi Janardanam. And what it means is that Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is in everyone's heart. Just the Bhagavad Gita gives an example. Picture the sun and have a bunch of pots, water pots. So the sun will be reflected in every one of those water pots. Although the sun has its... And those reflections actually have some degree of heat and light. So the sun, although it's localized, is present in so many places. In a similar fashion, although in its fullest, Krishna is full in every one of those reflections, the Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is in everyone's heart. He's called the witness. The Katha Upanishad gives an example of a tree. And in that bird, there's two trees. In that tree, there's two birds. And the example is that the tree is like this body. And living within this tree of this body are two birds. One is the soul, us, the individual. Just like a bird looking for fruit flies from tree to tree. So we go from body to body trying to enjoy lifetime after lifetime transmigration of the soul. But also traveling with us. There's the Atma, which is the self. And there's Paramatma. Paramatma means the Supreme Self. And that is Krishna, just like the sun reflected in every pot. The Supreme Lord is actually present in the heart of every living entity as the witness. Sees everything. There's an example, it's called the Vishwarupa, I don't want to get too far afield, of the universal form of God. And it said that God in this world has two eyes. And those eyes are the sun and the moon. So if you have one eye closed, you can still see with the other eye. I was giving this example to a group of kids, and because it comes from the Bhagavatam, and probably my spiritual master gives it, that the sun has two eyes. I mean, in this material world, God has two eyes, the sun and the moon, and even if one's closed, the other is open, seeing everything you do. Either the sun is shining or the moon is shining. And there was a little kid, could have been over 6, sitting right in front, said, what about a moonless night? So I said to the mom, I said, this kid should be an attorney. He's immediately found the loophole, you know? So it's a material example, it's not perfect. But the principle is there, the sun and the moon see everything. So Krishna is the witness, Krishna sees everything. So, and there's another sutra, Sanskrit sutra, Samsiddhi Haritoshanam, that the measure of perfection is Krishna, the Supreme Lord, pleased or satisfied. We're trying to satisfy our nation. If you were an Australian soldier during World War II and you were killed in the battlefield, they planted a tree for you. Okay, you satisfied the nation. What'd you get out of it? You know, you got to be a eucalyptus or something, you know, big deal. So we're all trying to please our husband, is trying to please the wife is trying to please the husband, employees are trying to satisfy the boss is trying to satisfy the stockholders. I mean, anywhere you go, the president, they're out there pleading for your votes, even though he becomes the president, still, you know, it's a so-called democracy, you know, vox populi. So everybody's trying to please somebody, and it's really not working out so well. Bhagavatam gives an example that all the senses, and here's how the story goes. I think it's a Bengali thing, that one day, all the senses, there's so many senses, eye, tongue, nose, ear, all the different senses, they had a workers' convention. They all gathered together. They said, we're all working so hard, the eye is looking in, the tongue is, the mouth is chewing, and we give everything to this stomach. And what is the stomach doing? Just sitting there. So they called a work stoppage. You know, what do you call it? You know, went on strike. They went on strike. They said, no, the hand just kept the sweets, and if they went to the mouth wouldn't swallow. It was like that. So they were very proud of themselves. Said, you know, power to the people, power to the senses. No more working for this overlord, this exploitative stomach. So how did that work out? What do you think?
They all got to start.
After a couple of days, they had to have an emergency strike committee meeting. You know, everyone's becoming weak. They go, oh, we have to give to the stomach. So we're all trying to please so many things. And we're not saying duty. We're really afield now, but that's okay. We have a ISKCON constitution almost finished. We've been working on it for years. And a constitution, generally speaking, talks about the relationships between different, portions, societies, or sections of society, how they all interrelate. And we looked, Manu Samhita is another Vedic text. The word man comes from Manu, and it's the law book of mankind, Vedic law, and it covers everything. So many of those things are digitized now. So we, did a folio search of the Manu Samhita, looking under rights. What are my rights? Citizens' rights, this right, what are my rights? Amended rights. Nothing came up. What? This is the law book of mankind. How can, it's all about relationships. How can nothing come up? You know what, one of our, I think it was Ravindra's group actually said, wait a minute, we're not looking at this right. You know what word we looked under? Duties. We looked under page after page. What are the duties? What are the responsibilities? So, we're all trying to please someone, and we're not discounting duties. Husband has a duty to the wife has a duty to the husband, children, teacher, everyone has duties. And that's what stitches society together. We should do our duty through thick and thin. We're not challenging. But Samsiddhi Haritoshanam is Krishna satisfied. What will satisfy us, like the senses feeding the stomach, is if we learn the art how to satisfy Krishna. That's the real measure of success. Now, I'm saying this in context of our theme, humility. I'll give you an example. As a young man, yes, I was a young man once. And it went fast, trust me. All of you young men and young ladies out there, before you know it, take a selfie now, because it's not lasting long. It'll be gone before you know it. And you can't buy it back with it. You could win. What was the lottery up to? I think it was 1.7. Hey, 200 million, yeah, give or take, So, even you won the lottery at 1.7 billion, or 1.5, let's be conservative, you could not purchase 1 second. It's not on sale at Walmart, blue light special, minutes for sale. No, you can't buy a second of that. So, I was a young man once, and I had an argument with another devotee. We were young and passionate and proud in those days. We had an argument, some petty, foolish thing. I was arguing with him. And we had a disagreement. Sharp words. So I went to coincidentally there was a senior sannyasi, one of the senior monks of our society. His name is Badrinarayan Swami. He was visiting. So I went and downloaded my whole issue with him. He heard it out very patiently. And he said, you should go and apologize to me. I said, but I wasn't wrong. We all know that instinct. Well, wait a minute, you should apologize to me. So he convinced me that was the right thing to do, to go and apologize. No loss in taking the humble position. So I thought, all right, I'll give it a try. Skeptic and half-hearted in my endeavor. So I went to the devotee and I offered my apologies, expecting him to respond and gush, oh, actually, I was wrong, and you're great, and whatever. I had some expectation of what was going to happen. And he turned on his heels and walked away. And I was, as they say in modern, colloquially, I was fried. I went back to ISKCON Swami. He said, what was the use of that? I offered my apologies, and he didn't even reciprocate or appreciate it. I didn't get any benefit. And he said, but Krishna saw. Krishna saw you take the humble position and do the right thing. Ching ching, that goes up on the scoreboard. That's what actually matters. I did the right thing for pleasing the Supreme Lord. And that's how we measure things. So if one thinks like that, let me ask you another question. And we've used this example before, so thank you for your patience. When you go to school, I remember I had a friend who went to community college. I'm not putting down community college at all. It's often a very intelligent path to higher education. And he took, I don't know, basket weaving and advanced film theory, and he had all these like, no stress, bring popcorn and a warm body, and you're going to pass, And he considered himself very successful. When I was in high school, his name was John Logan, and the guy never, he was, what is he, not the brightest bulb in the chandelier, he's probably voting for president and driving a car now. But he was, the football team loved him. The guy was about 20 years old. He was big as a horse, and he was just put him on the front line and no problem, But is the measure of success of school that you're having a great time? I mean, we want to have fun. We're not discounting fun and the exhilaration of learning and, playing to your strength. We're not discounting all of that. But is the actual measure of the success of a school that you had a great time, no stress? Let me present it to you another way. What is the measure of a hospital? I checked into the hospital, Badrinarayan Swami. I get a private room. Hey, it's got a view. I can see the ocean from here. And beautiful nurses are coming. They have in-room cafe. I can order whatever I like. I got a motorized bed. I got free cable. What's the insurance is paying for it? What not to love? Check in, but don't check out. Is that a successful one? Oh, Mr. Narayan, we're going to keep you here for about 6 months, and we don't expect any progress, but you can have a great time. Is that the success of a hospital? What is the success of a hospital? Yeah, you're cured, and you get out to your real activities. So if we understand that this world is not my real home, actually, it's not a place that even you want to make a comfortable nest. How long can you stay in it? You get kicked out. We all get time and tide wait for no one. Faster than you can expect it. So what is the real, as we were saying this morning in class, there was a devotee, and he was underage, so his parents were making him live at home. And they were trying to fire up his material passions. I mean, they took him bowling, that wasn't the best move, but, they tried so many things, whatever it was, took him to see the latest Star Wars, I don't know what, free ticket to Tahiti or whatever. They were trying to get the guys fired up for material life, and it just didn't work. And finally, they took him to a wedding. And, on one hand, it's a happy scene, young man, young woman, they're on the threshold of a happy life together, marital bliss, which sometimes is an oxymoron, like military intelligence or country music or whatever. But anyway, so they're thinking he's going to be happy, great time. And the priest, the officiating at the ceremony says, I don't know what the modern politically correct saying is, but this priest said, I now pronounce you man and wife, until death do you part. And everyone throws the flowers, and there's the beautiful music. It's great. The boy turned to his father and said, just see, however happy they are now, at death they have to part. The father brought him back and said, you ruined it, you spoiled it, you can have it, we give up. But, and we're not macabre, we're not focused on the dark side of life, but it's pragmatic. Like, what's that old joke? If you're not paranoid, you haven't been paying attention. It's a fact. What is the real purpose of life? Is the purpose of life to just find a comfortable corner and try to fight off the effects of time, which nobody wins? Or what if there's another purpose? If your house is on, let's say, make it personal. If my house was on fire, I wake up I'm living on the second floor, I wake up in the middle of the night, and my house is on fire. So what is your instinct? Other than 911 and grab your watch and wallet, other than that, what are your instincts? Get out of the house, isn't it? Yeah. Anybody disagree with that? Okay. That's good news. You stop in the kitchen to make a sandwich? Hey, the house is on fire. I don't want to make another. There's some nice cheese in that, you know. Got some fresh product in the sandwich. No, you get out. So, if we understand that our real purpose in life is self-realization, is to become free from all the I'm black or white or old or young or male or female or rich or poor. All these are called upadis. All these temporary designations that we carry. They're all gone. We have to give them all up anyway. And all of our problems. Chanakya Pandit is like the Ben Franklin of Vedic times. You know, he has so many pithy sayings. And Chanakya Pandit says, you should never give up the permanent for the temporary. You will lose both. Think about it. It's quite profound, actually. One should never give up the permanent for the temporary. You're going to lose both. Why not seek that which will last, that which is eternal, that which gives permanent benefit, rather than chasing after what you're going to have to give up anyway? So, back to our theme of humility. But if one has this understanding of the real purpose of life, not petty victory, which how long does it last, but real accomplishment, which is advancement in spiritual life. It says that a child's weapon, this is again Chanakya, a child's weapon is innocence. You know, a little child, don't take advantage, a little child, you know, is running through the house, knocks over a lamp and breaks it. Well, you may be a little upset, but, oh, he's a kid. I mean, kids do, any parents will attest, kids do foolish things. They don't mean to do something foolish. They're just not thinking, you know. So, oh, he's innocent. He's a child. He didn't know better. So you really can't fault him. So a child's weapon or defense is innocence. Now, they say that a woman's weapon, often deployed quite successfully, is, yay, way to go. Your husband is, you know it, tears. And it works. You know, the man thinks, oh, geez, she's crying, or whatever you want. So it actually works. I've seen it work quite often, you know, quite effectively. Anyone know what an old man's weapon is? Old man's weapon is knowledge. Wisdom. Not just material knowledge, but wisdom, you know? Because what if you're an old man, you can't claim innocence, nobody's going to believe you if you cry anyway, you know? So what are you going to do, you know? But if you have wisdom. So that's real wealth. The theme we're dancing around is the power of humility, the benefit of humility. Now, I wanted to read something from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna gives in the 13th chapter, verse 8 of Bhagavad Gita, he gives a description of what is knowledge. And it doesn't say marine biology, math, calculus, theoretical physics. No, it doesn't say that. That's not going to get you too far. I'll tell you a joke, because we have a little time. We go to 7, isn't it? Okay, it's a joke by my spiritual master. He liked to tell jokes, you know, that had a meaning. So here's his joke. There is a scholar. We're not against knowledge. We're not against erudition. We're not flat earthers. I'm using an iPad. Don't get me wrong. But when it blinds one to truth, then what is the use? So this pundit, this scholar, was very proud. And he was going on a lecture tour, and he was in Bengal, and there's so many rivers in Bengal, and they take advantage of boat service, you know, ferry service. So he got in a ferry, in a boat across the river, and he was with this boatman, simple boatman, nice Vaishnava devotee, simple man, but, you know, did not graduate from, you know, was it PhD, piled higher and deeper, or permanent head damage or prominent humility disorder. He didn't grad from BSU. So there he was, in the boat. And how's it going? So they're looking at the sky, and the scholar says to the boatman, do you know what star that is, or what constellation it is? The boatman says, I'm a simple boatman. I know the pole star, I guide my boat, I really don't know much. You never studied cosmology, you never studied astrophysics. You wasted 25% of your life. The boatman was humble, he didn't bother him too much. They go a little further, some fish jumped. The scholar says, do you know what kind of fish that was? The boatman says, I'm a vegetarian, I'll leave the fish alone, they don't bother me, I don't bother them, we all get along fine, In India, they cheat, They know they're not supposed to eat fish. Why kill an innocent animal? Causes them pain. So why? They call it, just water vegetables. And they know it's a water vegetable. They say Ganga, what is it, Ganga fall? Fruit in Ganga, And an egg is a round lobby. So many ways to cheat. But anyway, if you're from India, you understand. So but he said, I don't bother the fish doesn't bother me. Scholar says, you never studied marine biology? You've wasted 50% of your life. So they go a little further, they happen to cross by a bank or something, and the scholar says, do you know what the flora and fauna of this locale is? Well, that's it. Look, I know tomato, I know eggplant, I know chili, I can cook a veg. That's one more I need to know. I'm okay. You never studied biology. You've wasted 75% of your life. Now, unbeknownst or unrecognized by the scholar, it had clouded over. Monsoon season. In India, tropics, we're talking serious rain, not this, it rained a 16th of an inch and everyone flips, We're talking about serious rain. Buckets, right? The sky opens up and rain pours down. So it was monsoon season, and the rain began to pour. They're in this little boat in the middle of the river, and the boat starts filling up. And the boatman's trying to bail, but he can't get the water out fast enough. So the boatman says, I'm sorry, sir, the bank is nearby, we're going to have to swim. The scholar says, well, I was too busy in my academic studies. I didn't bother my time to this swimming. The boatman says, you never learned how to swim? Looks like you wasted 100% of your life. But it is a point, Shastra says the test is what if you can remember the Lord at the time of death. So Krishna's giving his description of knowledge. And he's not necessarily astrophysics or marine biology. And those things are fine, no problem. We have astrophysicists, we have marine biologists that come to the temple. We have all kinds of people come to the temple. So we're not belittling it, but it's not the full in-game. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, he starts off, he says, humility and pridelessness, he gives a whole list of qualities. But he starts off with humility and pridelessness and says, I declare this to be knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, he says, humility is the beginning of knowledge. Humility is a prerequisite, a precursor, a necessary quality to actually gain knowledge. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And Prabhupada says in the purport, when one is free from delusion caused by pride is the other side of humility, one can begin the process of surrender. So knowledge, humility opens the door to knowledge. I'm not picking on Mexico. We have devotees, nice temples, great mangoes, so many things in Mexico. But I was in Tijuana getting a painting frame, And fool that I am, I couldn't figure out where I was. So there were these three guys standing on the corner. I said, "Donde está este calle?" Whatever, my broken Spanish. And one guy pointed this way, another guy pointed that way, and the third guy pointed the other way. And then they all realized they were pointing in different directions. Even they started to laugh. They said, "Actually, we don't know." But they didn't want to admit that they don't know, so they all thought, "I will guess this way, guess that way," But if one can become humble, then one is open to hearing. What is it? Shanadati Suni? No, that's not yet. What is it? The first line for Bhagavad Gita approaches to spiritual master. Tatari pranipatena paripashena sevaya upadeshanti te jnana jnanivas tat darshana. That one has to approach someone who's fixed in knowledge, one who's seen the truth. You approach someone who actually knows, and how do you approach? You don't challenge. You approach with inquisitiveness and service. So, I wanted to just read a little bit here. Some of the qualities of pride. Because pride is here, we're going to read about humility, and we read about humility. So pride first, because there are others, both sides of the same coin. And this is from the Oxford. Pride, arrogant and disdainful conduct, haughtiness, conceit, condescending, excessively high opinion of self. I'll read it again. It's a lot to carry around with you. I mean, and we all do. It's a real burden on the back. But I'll read it again. Arrogant and disdainful conduct, haughtiness, conceit, condescending nature, excessively high opinion of self. Then humility. And when I read this list, watch the temperature go down in the room, about 10 degrees. Here's the other side of the coin. Marked by meekness or modesty, not arrogant or prideful, differential or submissive in respect, low in quality, rank, or station, unpretentious, to not pretend, to not have a false appearance. I'm going to read it again. Marked by meekness or modesty, not arrogant or prideful, differential or submissive in offering respect, low in quality, rank, or station, unpretentious, not pretending or presenting a false appearance. This is humility. What do we have to be proud of? Srila Prabhupada tells a story. It's a Guru Nanak story, actually. And there is how does it go? There was a rich man. We're not against rich men. I mean, we need donations for maintaining the temple. There's many people that are rich and wonderful devotees, and there's many people who are poor and fools. I mean, it works all the way around. But this happened to be a rich man who was very proud. So a sadhu, a saintly person, came to town. And the sadhu was speaking. He's speaking at the local temple or whatever it was. So people come. In those days, they were all locked to their screens, or what's the latest on HBO. So they had some free time. So they went to the temple to hear what this saintly person, what this sadhu had to say. So a friend invited the rich man that you come and hear. I've heard this man speak before. It's very nice. You'll like it. You'll learn something. It'll be good for you. And the rich man said, I know these sadhus. They're all the same. He's going to ask me for something. You watch. When it's all over, he's going to ask me for some money, or donate to his charity, or give him a cow, or he's going to want something. I'm not going. I said, no, this stuff is that you'll like it. And afterwards, there's a great feast. So the guy thought, I can sit through anything for half an hour. I'll go, I get a nice coconut kachoris afterwards. So he came. And the sadhu spoke very accurately and pleasingly. And afterwards, they say that the face is the index of the mind. You can sometimes tell how someone's feeling, if they're angry or distracted or whatever. You can tell by looking at the face. So the sadhu could see that this man was not happy, his mind was somewhere else. So the saintly person, when he finished his talk, called the man over. And he could understand what the situation was. This sadhu could understand. And he said to the rich man, I need your help. And the sadhu said, the rich man said, he's thinking, I knew it, here it comes. I got sucker punched again. So he said, what do you want? He said, I have this needle. I use this needle for sewing up my cloth. And I lose it all the time. It's very convenient. He said, can you just keep this needle for me? And you give it to me in my next life. Could you do that for me? Anyone know what the response of the rich man was? What was his response?
Not possible.
Huh?
Not possible.
Not possible. I mean, think about it. And the rich man was smart. He realized, wait a minute, this little needle, what's a needle worth? In India, you can buy a single needle. In America, can you buy a single needle? No. It's by a packet, isn't it? Just to get one, you gotta buy the whole pack. That's my experience, And even then, it's $1.99 or whatever it is, that's high quality. So, it's an insignificant thing. And the rich man realized this insignificant thing I can't take to my next life. And I'm so proud of my land and my houses and all my bank balance. What is the use of all of these things, Chanakya Pandit gives a nice example. The bee works very hard. The bee? Busy's a bee, make a beeline, Bees are always busy, you don't find them like hanging out at the juice shop or maybe you find it, but they're looking for some nectar in the juice shop. They're there on business, they're not hanging out, So, and why are they busy? What are they doing? Making honey. But with a beekeeper, they don't get to enjoy the honey. He comes along and smokes them out, stuns them all, and takes the honey. So Chanakya Pandit uses this example. We're all working very hard to build up our assets. Time comes, death comes, takes it all away. We don't get to enjoy it. Dimwit relatives who inherit it, they get it. You don't get it. Maybe you got a car out of the deal or a house or a view. So, what are we so proud about? In reality, we don't, what it tore from the headlines of daily news. I have a gift from my father, my very kind and good father. I have a hybrid Ford. Runs on electricity, runs on gas, right? Wouldn't start this morning because it's all computerized. And somehow or other, I didn't push the button right on the key and left some light, and the car died. All right, so went to jump the car. Guess what? If you don't have the keys, you can't open the trunk. There's no power because it's computerized, So you can't open the trunk. You can't open the trunk. You can't get the jumper cables. Okay, and then when you open up the hood, there's no battery. So how are you jumping? You finally get you've got batteries. So I've called the guys at Ford and this and that. Finally, we went all the way to Detroit. Yeah. And if you pull down in case you're kids, you can use this at home. You pull down the back seat, you can climb through from the back seat into the trunk, and there's a cord you can pull that pops open the trunk. It's a safety thing. How many people from the mob are throwing bodies in the trunk? I'm telling you, there's a cord you can pull. I'm all the way under, I've been working on this thing for about an hour and a half. I'm underneath this thing. I've got flat on my back, and I'm literally about half an inch short. I can't pull the tag. Because, there wasn't enough crawl space. So I had, I gotta find one of the kind devotees came in to get going, Took forever. So, although it was advanced, it's a smart car. It sure made a dummy out of me. It slapped me silly for an hour and a half. So, what are we actually in charge of? What do we actually control? When you think about it, we are at my Guru said, you think you're sitting on the floor? He said, I am sitting in the hand of Krishna. The fact of the matter is, we don't control anything. You get a little cough, you go home and you go, guess what? You got 6 weeks to live. Where'd that come from? Stock market crashes, My sister and my brother-in-law are school teachers. He's a principal, she's a school teacher. They moved from California, Southern California, great weather, everything's happy. They moved to Oregon. Why? Because it has great retirement benefits. You don't really want to live in, no offense about Oregon, there's a lot of trees and whatever. Anyway, they were so happy. But it was a great retirement package. When the recession hit, because all the teachers' pensions was all on the stock market, it literally dropped by 50%. They were going to retire in 3 years. They were going to go to Italy, walking tour of Greece. They had the whole thing planned out. His name's Jerry. He's actually a nice guy. I said, Jerry, so when are you going to retire? He said, oh, no. He said, I'm not going to retire. I have to expire rather than retire. So I got to work till he drops dead. So, what are we actually in charge of? There was a man at UCSD, one of my favorite stories. I'm sorry, I have a streak of black humor. His field, he was a nuclear biology, which is, the actual, it's a type of thing, whatever. And his whole thing was life extension. And by the right type of diet and exercise and oxygen and this and that, and he was going to live to be 120. Yeah, and he said, he's a double PhD, UCSD, on his way for Nobel Prize in medics, in medicine. He was 66 years old. He had the heart rate of a 40-year-old. Hey, 20 years, the guy's on course. He's out jogging. Beautiful day, it's up there in La Jolla Village Drive, ocean view, sea breeze. The women's volleyball team was out practicing. Now the guy's 67 years old, but lust never dies. He was looking at the women's volleyball team, got distracted, ran into an intersection, hit by a bus and killed. So much for life extension. So I don't mean to pick on that man, but I'm making the point that we are actually not in charge of anything. We cannot control circumstances. What can we control? How we respond to circumstances. We can't control the actual action itself, but we can control how we respond to it. So what we're teaching here at the Hare Krishna Temple, now we're going to take some questions, is transcendental knowledge that actually infuses how to see this world. We all want to become free from anger, from greed, from frustration, from envy. These things cause us so much problem. As I was saying earlier, part of our philosophy, a cornerstone of any genuine spiritual knowledge, is that we are not this body. We're the soul within. I mean, Jesus says it, Buddha says it, Muhammad says it. Who you want to, call up a genuine spiritual teacher. Reference them. They all start at that point, that we are not this body. We're the soul within the body. And we're riding in this body for certain. Okay, most people can get that. I get in a car, I drive it, it runs out of gas, I don't pass out in the front seat. I get out and get into another car. Okay, I got it. But we're not this mind. We're not this ego. We're not this package of desires. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fireman. I wanted to be an astronaut. Think about it. What did you want to be when you were a kid? I don't want to put it in the spot, over a moment here, but, we all had so many things we want. I want this, I want, and it's changed. It's all changed. We look at, I wanted a red tricycle. And it had to have streamers. And it had to have a ooga horn. I remember it to this day. And I remember my wonderful mother and father. I went down to Christmas, and under the tree, I must have been 3 years old, I don't know what it was. There was a red tricycle, and it had streamers, it had a horn, it had a ring. I was in heaven. I was in heaven for about 3 weeks, and my neighbor, who was 2 years older than me, said, "What are you doing on a baby bike? What are you doing on a baby bike? You should get a two-wheeler." That was it, man. I bailed on that. I told my father, I got to. He said, "You're too young. You'll kill yourself." I said, "That's it. I'm never getting on that tricycle again. I want to, So I had a burning desire, was actually satisfied, but within a second it was shifted. Now that's a simple example, but we're a bundle of desires and aspirations, but they have no real substance. Just like we're not this body, we're not the mind, we're not the false ego, we're not the pride. And if we can, then okay, I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not that. What's the intelligent question? Who am I? I can come to zero, negative numbers, I can come to zero, but what's the positive spectrum? Who am I? And the Vedas say, all the great saintly persons, Nitai Sarup Krishna Das, my eternal position, not my transitory, here today, gone tomorrow, my eternal position is I'm a servant of Krishna. And if one understands, and this world is meant for me to learn how to serve Krishna, instead of serving my senses, and anybody who knows, I don't know, I'm thinking about my parents, but you've all had this. If you had good parents, you had the same experience. I remember going to the beach, My mother would always, we'd go picnic to the beach. My mother would always complain about sand. I remember thinking, we're at the beach, how would there not be sand? But that's another issue. So there's always something in this world. But I remember we all had sandwiches. I dropped my sandwich in the snow, in the sand. I couldn't eat it. Something. My mother gave me her sandwich. She was completely happy. If I was happy, she was happy. It wasn't like, hey, I got mine, buddy. Chop luck for you, tell me. That wasn't, I'll fill in my belly and, we'll get a snack on the way home. It wasn't like that, She became, so that's, Prabhupada said that a good mother's, and fathers also, love for the child, that selfless love. You don't expect anything in return. It gets your child, and that gives you happiness. That is a shadow. I'm not diminishing it, but I'm saying that is a sample of the happiness of serving Krishna. That actually this, and Krishna, Krishna says, what is it? Patra pushpam palam toyam? A leaf, a flower, fruit, a little bit of water. Krishna is satisfied. If it's been done with love. Krishna, you can satisfy. You don't have to have, we had to vote. Let me go into it. We, in the old days, this used to be a very Christian nation, not the left coast and the right coast. But if you were in the south, it was a very Christian nation. And if you were in Tennessee, what it was called, wasn't the buckle of the Bible belt? You were. So we were in Alabama. That's all I got to say. I'm offended in Alabama. In 1970s Alabama was very, very, the fundamentalist side of Christianity, not infused by much knowledge. We were chanting. We went out chanting, Gaudi's just like, we were arrested for illegally gathering a crowd and holding a parade without a license. Yeah, we were thrown out there so many times. We were thrown in jail. So, now the thing is, we were a group of young brahmacharis, young men, and we were on our way to the Dallas temple. The Dallas temple was a beautiful temple, and it is a beautiful temple still, and we were dreaming of a nice Sunday feast. We were living on simple khichdi, which is that kind of a bean and rice stew every day, khichdi. We were really looking forward to that Sunday feast. And all of a sudden, we're in jail in Huntsville, Alabama. Oh, jeez, well, there goes the Sunday feast. So, the Nectar of Devotion, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu had just come out. Prabhupada's commentary on this. And it describes in there, it's called Manaseva. Man means mind. So one way one can serve Krishna is within the mind. And it tells the story about a Brahmin, who was a poor Brahmin, but in his mind, he very carefully cooks a nice, we call it sheer or sweet rice. It's very nice, like a creamy pudding. It's ambrosia, and it's made right, it's really nice. So he was dreaming, in his mind, he got all the rice, got first-class milk, cook it over a nice gobar, cow dung, fire. That's the best, get the best flavor to things. So he was in his mind. He didn't have anything. But in his mind, in meditation, he prepared this wonderful sweet rice. So, and the story, and it's from one of the Puranas, I forget where the narration is from. It's historical narration. So, in his mind, sweet rice should be cold. It's very nice when it's ice cold. So in his mind, he set it aside, and then he went to test it. It was cold enough, and he burned his finger. And in Vishnu Loka, Krishna Loka, Lord Narayan began to laugh. Lakshmi asked why, and he said, and he narrated the story. So Krishna was actually accepting. It was real. If you offer, because Krishna doesn't need the external thing. What do you give the man who has everything? So Krishna just wants the bhava, or the love. So that you can do anything. So this had just come out. So we all thought, well, let's make the Sunday feast in prison. We were in it was a city jail, one big cell like that. Maybe 15 devotees in there. So, all right. One devotee began rolling puris in his mind. But doing physical exercise like Panama. Another devotee was chopping vegetables, another devotee was rolling samosas, deep frying. We cooked the whole Sunday feast, And Billy Bob and whatever the country boys, they were getting a little uncomfortable. They already thought, where's the mothership, or these guys from Mars, so they're already trying to process the thing. And here we are in jail, rolling quarries, cooking, samosas. We're having a great time, And then we offered everything. We made a nice altar, beautiful Radha, I think it was golden tie we had. And then we offered every nice gold plates with jewel rims. In the money. Why not? You can do it in the money. And every preparation turned out perfectly. And so we offered it. We all played, air madunga, harekrishna. We were chanting out loud with all the instruments. The devotee was there offering incense, ghee lamp. It was fantastic, right? The good old boys were getting really nervous by this point, And then finally we all sat down and took prasada. And we all served out of the magistrate plate. The boys were on, I'll have a little more chutney, a little more rye. We're serving up the whole thing, They were really nervous at this point. And then finally one of the devotees made up 2 plates in his mind and offered it to the 2 guards. It's delicious. The guy said, that's it, man, that's it. He opened up the jail and said, north, east, south, west, you're free to go. Just leave the county. And the true story. We actually got in the car and drove all the way to the Dallas temple, made it just in time for the Sunday feast. But the point I'm making is that Krishna can be pleased in any condition. And the happiness of serving this, and it doesn't matter what you do. You can make a little leaf, a flower. Anybody here can get a leaf, a fruit, flower. You can't, you don't have to buy it. You can grow it yourself, Fruit, flower, or you can do it within your mind. And we'll find that instead of carrying this heavy burden, if we're a little humble, that actually we're existing by the mercy of God. That Krishna is supplying everything. One man said, I'm going to create life. Prabhupada said, before you create life, can you make me a drop of milk? How could you make a drop? Big talk. We're working on it. We're in the future. Prabhupada said, you're in the future is a post-dated check from a bankrupt man. You're making a promise to create life, can't even make a drop of milk. So we're dependent on Krishna's mercy at every moment. And this life is temporary. And our real purpose in life is to develop love for Krishna. And it's a simple thing to do. And if we do it, we will find the greatest happiness, the greatest satisfaction in any condition, old, young, rich, poor, black, white, male, female, whatever it may be. It is the greatest happiness, and it's obtainable for all. So it's 7:02. We should end. Nitya Gaur standing up. That's a clear signal. Anyway, thank you for sitting so patiently. Hare Krishna.
Badrinarayan Swami, please stand and place your red mats over there.
Krishna